Thank you so much for sitting down with us, Mayor Walsh. We really appreciate the time.
Happy to be with you.
I'm going to start off here and just kind of ask, you talk a lot about understanding the community which you serve. What's one of the biggest misunderstandings or assumptions people have about the city of Syracuse?
I think that we're often characterized by some of our more of our challenges than the positive attributes. So, we live in a city that struggles with poverty, that has been through, up until recently, decades of disinvestment, deindustrialization. And so I think that oftentimes that's what gets the focus when, if you peel back a few of those layers, there's some really compelling stories. As it relates to the economy, again, after many difficult decades, we've really turned the page. We have significant investments happening throughout the city and the community. Of course, we're on the precipice of the Micron moment, which is going to be transformational for the entire community. And when you look at the issues around poverty and some of the challenges that we have in the city, what I tell people is that I've been on most blocks in the city, and on virtually all of them, when you knock on doors and you talk to people, what you find is the vast majority of people are just good people trying to get by, doing their best. And you may have one or two problem properties or problem neighbors that make life difficult for the rest of them. But again, in each of those neighborhoods, on each of those blocks, there are amazing stories of resilience and people that have overcome so many barriers just to get to where they are today. And so again, I think that the story of resilience, the story of renaissance that's happening here in the city are stories that aren't as often told, but are there in droves throughout the community.
You talked about kind of maximizing this moment with Micron coming in. The big debate, especially with the campaign trail, is do we invest in the people who are here currently, or do we invest in the future workforces coming in?
Yeah.
Which of those populations, and it could be both, do you see the path forward for?
Well, it has to be both. But for me as a public servant, and I think for all public servants, you have to start with the community that you serve and the people that elected you into office. And when I think about Micron and what it's going to mean to this community, it's going to be significant under any scenario. But if we truly want it to be transformational, it has to benefit the people that are here today. And that's why so much of our work and effort through the Syracuse Surge and through Syracuse Build is about preparing people that are here today, whether they're in the Syracuse City School District or they're adults, to make sure they have the skills necessary to be competitive in the new economy, to be competitive for jobs at Micron. And if we can do that, and we can ensure that the new people that do come here, many of them choose the city as their home, again, I think it can be a game changer for the city.
Yeah, I want to kind of pivot here and talk about the recent election here on November 4th with Deputy Mayor Sharon Owens now stepping into the position.
Yeah.
What's kind of one thing you've worked with her closely, one thing that you'd like to see carried forward from your administration, or maybe something that you didn't quite get to that you'd like to see her accomplish in her administration?
Yeah. It's really hard to separate Mayor-elect Owens and me because we have been side by side for the past 8 years. So all of my accomplishments are her accomplishments, and so I suspect that she will evaluate city government as she goes into the transition and into her new administration. And just as I did 8 years ago, identify the things that are working well and try to keep those going, and identify areas that need investment and improvement. And the reality is they will always be there. There are a lot of things that we addressed over the past 8 years, but there's always more to be done, and some of the things that you addressed 7 or 8 years ago need to be readdressed. And it's a constant, fluid, dynamic process in city government that requires constant evaluation and flexibility to pivot and redirect resources where they need to be. So I expect that Mayor-elect Owens will go through that process. But again, I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I'm pretty sure she'll subscribe to that motto as well.
Have you given her any words of advice, little sayings, anything to help out?
So we talk a lot, and so I try. Certainly, when asked, I will give her advice. But Mayor-elect Owens she is here because of her own accomplishments, because of her track record and her experience over many years, even preceding city government. So she doesn't really need my advice. She again has been with me every step of the way. More than anybody, she knows exactly what she's getting herself into. But there is something to be said for sitting in this chair, and until you do, it is a different feeling. And I'm sure there will be moments, as there were for me, that are difficult, and I'm going to make sure that she knows that during those moments she can always pick up the phone, give me a call, and I'll try to help if I can.
Staying with elections, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for local Republicans after this race, kind of seeing this blue wall wash over even things like the Onondaga County legislator?
Yeah, I have never considered myself much of a political prognosticator or analyst. I think there's a couple things at play. Certainly, national politics influence local elections, and we saw that here. And that's just it's a reality that as local officials we all acknowledge and have to live with, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. That being said, it doesn't account for everything, and I still feel like good candidates that have good plans and the resources to support their campaigns can be successful, even if it's in the face of strong national political headwinds. I look at my own case back in 2017. That was during the first Trump administration, and you were starting to see that shift towards a blue wave. And I ran as an independent in a heavily Democratic city, and I was successful. And I think one of the reasons why I was successful and that Mayor-elect Owens was successful is because we presented a positive, hopeful vision for the future. I think at their core, most people want to feel hope. They want to believe that there's something better. And when they hear somebody that just talks about everything that's wrong and doesn't offer any solutions, that doesn't inspire much confidence. But when they hear somebody that's positive, hopeful, aspirational, I do think that moves people. And I think we saw, Mayor-elect Owens was really, regardless of the national climate, was successful, I think, mostly because of that.
Speaking of kind of the national climate, there's a big conversation about immigration right now, especially here in central New York. Have you at any point before or during your term ever seen Syracuse as a sanctuary city, as it's been called in the past?
I've always avoided using that term because I think it means different things to different people, and has had different definitions at different times. As I understand it currently right now, the federal administration has a list of sanctuary cities. Syracuse is not on it. But I always try to shift that conversation to let's look at what's happening here in Syracuse. We are a proud refugee resettlement community, and we have benefited greatly from being that. Those years before 2020, when we actually gained population, those years where we were losing population, it would have been much worse if we weren't bringing in as many refugees and immigrants as we were. So it's a part of who we are. It's part of Syracuse's DNA, and I think it's part of what makes us really special. And I think that in local government, we don't do immigration enforcement. We never have. And so, what I've said is that as it relates to immigration enforcement and working with federal authorities, where federal authorities are working to get dangerous criminals out of our community, we will happily work with them and support it. But as it relates specifically to immigration enforcement, that is not, again, a role that we play, and that's been consistent, far before this administration. I expect it will be consistent going forward.
Yeah, you've faced a lot of different challenges and adversities working as an independent over the past couple of years. It's rare that you see an independent in such a high-ranking local office. Do you think there's space in this day and age for independents, people who aren't on the fringes of those political parties?
I do. When you look just at the numbers, when you look at enrollment, more people are choosing not to affiliate with one of the two major political parties. So as those numbers continue to grow, I think that there'll be more opportunities for independents to tap into those that are not affiliated with parties, as well as some that may be disillusioned or not feeling like the party that they are a member of looks the same as it did when they first registered. The big challenge for independent candidates is that the system, the electoral system, was built by the two major parties and was built in a way that keeps those two parties in power. And so, the fact that I not only was successful in 2018, but then again in 2021, when I ran for re-election as the sitting mayor, I still had to create my own ballot line. I still had to be creative in getting on the ballot. It's not easy. And so that's really the biggest challenge for independent candidates. It's ballot access. But if they can get over that hump, then I think that they have a real shot. You need to be pragmatic about it. You need to build a broad, diverse coalition and be willing to engage with members of both parties and those that aren't. And you need to be able to raise money and have the resources to run a successful campaign. But if you can do all that and you're willing to do all that and be able to see that path to victory, look at the numbers, crunch the data, and if there's a path, then I think people can be successful. And so I hope that I am seen as an example of that it is possible, and I hope others will consider it.
I want to ask about kind of the independent platform. Over the campaign, I've spoken to a lot of Republicans that say some of your policies might have leaned Democrat when it came to things like property tax hikes. How do you justify something like a tax hike to your constituents when the price of living is rising? What's your message to them?
It's necessary in order to deliver the services that those very same constituents depend on. When the federal government is shutting down, when the state is pulling back on investments, it's your local government, whether it's a city, a town, or a village, that you feel the impact of more than anything. And so the reality is the way in which we are funded as a government. Sales tax is our largest source of revenue. We have no control over that. Thankfully, it's been growing, and so that's been helpful. State aid is our second largest source of revenue. Again, we have zero control over that, and up until 2 years ago, that hadn't changed in over a decade, and even still, it's largely been stuck while everything else has gone up. Property taxes is the third largest source of revenue in the biggest source of revenue that we have some control over. And so I think when you can make the connection between the services that we deliver, public safety, trash service, water department, all these things that people rely on every day, if you can make the case that by paying what is ultimately a fairly incremental additional cost for those services, I think most people think that it's worth it. And that's what I've heard from constituents. Raising taxes is always a politically volatile issue, but if you look at it strictly from a management standpoint and what we needed in order to deliver basic services to people, again, I think what we've done over the past 8 years is reasonable.
You mentioned property tax. Syracuse University doesn't pay some of those taxes. What's the path for something like such an education giant in this community investing back into the community? How do you think they should do that?
Syracuse University has been a great partner for the city of Syracuse. Chancellor Severud and I have a very positive working relationship along with our respective teams. And for as much discussion there is about the university not paying taxes, that's not something new, and it's not something unique to Syracuse University. It's federal tax law. So really what we've tried to focus on is, okay, what value do we bring to each other? And certainly this level of services that we provide in and around the university area, there's significant value there. And yeah, in an ideal world, it would be great to be able to get more for that. But also Syracuse University adds a significant value to the city of Syracuse. I mentioned sales tax is our largest revenue source, and when you bring 40,000 people into the dome, and they're all throughout the city before and after, there's real value there. The employment, Syracuse University is among our largest employers. So I think it's a bit of a distraction when people focus on this specifically around taxes. When you focus more on the value that we provide to each other, I think that it's a really positive relationship for both. And on top of that, to the chancellor's credit, they have been willing to negotiate service agreements, which acknowledge that there is a cost to the services that we deliver. We are limited in our revenue opportunities, and I give Chancellor Severud and his board a lot of credit for leaning into those conversations and being willing to support us through that services agreement.
Kind of pivoting now to more reflection, wrapping up, what is, over your tenure as mayor, your most rewarding day in office?
Boy, I struggle with the question of what my biggest accomplishment is, let alone most rewarding day. But it's really hard. I mean, what I love about this job is that every day is different, and there are ups and downs. And I think about the days that stand out to me that are the most positive are days when I can look a constituent in the eye and know that my service and the work that we did benefited them. So I think about some of the ribbon cuttings at new homes that we built, where we've turned over the keys to someone that's never owned their own home. Those moments are really gratifying to me. Moments involving young people, when we cut the ribbon on a new playground or on new school improvements, where I can look at the kids and see the excitement in their eyes. It's those moments, and sometimes they're high profile at a ribbon cutting, and sometimes they're me bumping into somebody on the sidewalk and them saying, I came to you 2 years ago and I asked for your help with this specific problem, and you solved it, and you made my life better. Those are the moments that I will look back very fondly on.
You talk about those little moments being memorable. How do you want your legacy as mayor, your run as mayor, to be remembered in this community?
I try not to put a lot of thought towards that. It's not something that I can really control. I've just tried to. I've done my best. When I talk to people and they say, congratulations on, you did a great job, and I always say I did my best, and I think that's all anyone can do. I have tried to do it in a way that values honesty and integrity, and in a way that, again, prioritizes helping people wherever they are in life. And so, I think as long as people look back and acknowledge that I did my best, that I tried to do the right thing for the right reasons, I will be very happy with that.
Mayor Walsh, I got to ask, what's next?
Still figuring it out. So I've come to terms with the fact that I feel I will always feel the need to serve the community in some capacity, to help people, but I'm more open to the idea now that doesn't have to be in government. So I'm considering some opportunities outside of government, but there still may be some opportunities within government at a different level of government that could be a good fit too. So I suspect by the time I'm at the end of my term, I will have figured it out. Again, I have some options now that takes a little bit of the pressure off, but I'm looking forward to finding a new way to do good, but maybe not be on the news as much as I am.
You mentioned some other levels, state government, maybe, possibly?
Possibly. I've certainly had conversations with the governor. I think Governor Hochul's done a great job, and if the opportunity is right, I would consider it. But I have made it clear to everyone who's asked, Syracuse is home. It's going to continue to be home. So we'll see where that takes us.
Well, I'm sure you'll have no problem going on LinkedIn and finding a job here in the next
just have
couple
to
months.
Click on that open to work button.
That's all you got to do. Put the little banner on your image
Exactly.
there. Well, we appreciate your time today, Mayor Walsh. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.